Me as Agent X. I'm head DEF CON speaker goon. I'm a network field engineer by trade that do a lot of wireless craziness. I'm co-founder of the foundation and the current president of the board.
I'm Nick Farr. I'm the treasurer of the foundation, and I wear a suit. No.
So just for a short history, if you don't know what the Hacker Foundation is, you don't know anything about us, here's the quick story. DEF CON's 8 major. Nick and I are up on the roof of the Alexis Park plane with a satellite phone, and we're thinking this is really cool technology, and they must need this other places, and they need hackers in other places because we have mad skills that can save the world. So the PA man adjusts me. Okay, so we're like, oh, this would be awesome. We need to come up with something totally cool, like Medici Sans Frontier, but with hackers. Hackers without borders. That won't scare the feds. So we kind of come around to a better name, which we call Hackers for Humanity. And Nick and I write some email about this back and forth, saying, what can we do with this? And we kind of waffle on a bunch of ideas, but we decide next year that we're going to have a dinner, and we're going to invite whoever wants to show up to talk about this idea, Hackers for Humanity. And all these people show up, and we're eating pizza and talking about ideas, and people are throwing out all these crazy ideas to us, like, oh, it should be an insurance company for hackers. And we're like, okay, that sounds like fun. And or it should be this, or it should be that, and we're like, So we come away from this, and Nick and I talk some more, and we figure out that what we really want to do is create an umbrella organization, a base on which people can kind of do their own thing. Many pieces loosely joined is our way to success. So Nick and I get together and we file a lot of paperwork, and we incorporate ourselves as a 501c3 nonprofit. We're incorporated in the fine state of California, and that's where we are today. We are IRS approved. Are there any IRS agents in the audience? Any? Okay. So he's a CPA, not just an accountant.
I'm actually not yet technically a CPA. I haven't met the experience requirement.
Actually naked from the waist down. It's a much better show from back here. So anyway, we've kind of moved along since that, and we've kind of filled our own niche out in the sphere. We look at things like EFF. They're the legal side and the political side of our community. Even though they don't defend hackers, they seem to do a lot of stuff that's good for us. And then you have something like the Free Software Foundation, which does, oh crap, could you fix that? Yeah. So Free Software Foundation does software licensing and such. There you go. And I locked myself out of my notes. Phil.
Actually, when I was in Germany talking about the Hacker Foundation at the 23C3, the 23rd Chaos Communications Congress, all of the questions that I got for the end are, why aren't you doing things that are political? And I kept trying to tell them, well, that's not why we're here. That's why the EFF is here, and that's why we as a community support the EFF. They take care of the politics. The Hacker Foundation is designed to be a charitable organization. Now, that's not to say that things that you do through Hacker Foundation might have some kind of political end at some point later on in the future, but that's for the community to decide what to do with. When we help support different kinds of tools, different tool sets, different projects or hacker spaces that may have a political element to them, that's fine, but we're here to build the infrastructure and the charitable foundation. So that we don't do politics, we do charity for the community.
And everyone knows that politics is a nasty quagmire of death. So why did we do this? And basically, it seemed like a good idea at the time. And one of the things that we got mainly out of this big meeting with a bunch of people was, if you're organized, you are much more impactful. So we decided to get organized. And as I get older, I like things like accountants and lawyers, because they help protect me if they're on my side and I pay them enough. And actually, we totally hacked the IRS. They just don't know yet. You want to talk about donations there?
Yeah. One of the things the Hacker Foundation does is collect money from the community to give back to the community. As a charitable organization, of course, we're out there, we're looking for donations. And one of the things about the Hacker Foundation is that it's for you to give directly to causes in the community that you support and get the benefit of a tax write-off that a 501c3 charitable organization can provide you. We accept cash donations, obviously, and these go to support developers, these go to support infrastructure within the community. There are a lot of independent security researchers out there that are doing, independent security research entirely out of the good of their own heart. I think it would be great if we as a community could come up with resources to be able to allow these independent security researchers to do that work full time and be able to pay their bills, to take care of the rent, to take care of buying new equipment and things like that. And that's one of the big things that we started the Hacker Foundation for, is to be able to allow people to donate in $20, $50, $100 increments when they're working and when they can do that, in order to support the people who really want to do independent security research full time and not be bound up in working for a corporation or working for other interests. The Hacker Foundation is here to support primarily independent researchers out there. The Hacker Foundation also allows independent researchers to go out and seek grant funding. As a 501c3 organization, we are qualified to administer grant funding. That anybody who's been involved with grants knows that most of them are given to foundations or through universities and things like that, and that most granting organizations will not just write checks to individuals because they don't have any control over making sure that disbursed for things that the funds were intended to when they were writing the grant in the first place. The Hacker Foundation also allows you to donate equipment and get a similar tax write-off like you would donate old clothing or toys, things like that, to the Salvation Army. If you have old computer systems out there, platforms that your organization or you yourself aren't using anymore, but still have value for development somewhere in the community, you can donate them through the Hacker Foundation, and we'll make sure that they get to projects and to individuals, to people who are working all around the world who can use that equipment, sort of give it a second life. And it also relieves you of the responsibility of having a pile of old, useless to you equipment in your closet, or a hazardous waste consideration, which, as we all know, there's tons and tons of toxic chemicals in basically every piece of technology that we use out there. The Hacker Foundation also allows you to put time to different things. You might have resources and expertise in grant writing. You might have expertise in marketing, web pages, like that. A lot of projects and groups out there don't have access normally to people who have those kinds of skills and expertise, and what we're trying to do is create a base of expertise within the community to allow those independent researchers to have access to things that they wouldn't normally have access to. The first sort of prototype fund that the Hacker Foundation has been working with over the past couple of months is the Metasploit Fund. And the Metasploit Fund was basically designed in that vein to allow the core developers Metasploit to help devote more of their time and energy towards developing the framework. The goal of the fund is eventually when we accumulate enough funds in it, is to allow these developers to do that kind of work and devote as much time to it as they would like to and still pay their rent, take care of the groceries, things like that. We haven't done a lot of big PR push behind the Metasploit Fund. It's sort of been quietly developed. It's our first experience in making sure that we have all of the administration, everything like going correctly. If you go to the Metasploit page, click on Donate, you would be donating to the Metasploit Fund directly. Just throwing it up on the Metasploit webpage without putting a lot of PR behind it, we've gotten a decent amount of donations dedicated to it, something in the neighborhood of $300, $400. We accept donations to the fund through check, PayPal. Equipment, if you have equipment out there that you would like to donate to the fund, you'd write the developers want it. We would pay to have it FedExed from us to the Metasploit developers. Like I said, there hasn't been a lot of traction behind it, but now that you guys know it's out there, if you believe in Metasploit, donate, tell your friends about it, that sort of thing. And this leads us back into the whole fund initiative, which Jesse's going to talk a little bit more about.
So we got this fund initiative, which is kind of an interesting idea. If you think of the hacker community as a nation without borders, a nation that you're a citizen of and you don't pay any taxes for, think of the funds as voluntary taxes for things you think are worthwhile. So we've created a bunch of funds, and you visit our website and you can find out more about each of those funds. But the idea behind them is that you can donate to them, and there's a criteria or a means of withdrawing money from those funds for actions within the community or actions that benefit the community. I'm going to quickly roll through these. We got the HF General Fund, which is generally for running the foundation. If you've ever been in a hacker group or done anything, you might have figured out it's expensive. Stickers, t-shirts, websites, plane flights, they aren't cheap. So we need some cash. Con Scholarship Fund is the idea that there are people that should be coming to cons that aren't coming to cons, and we'd like to bring them here. So there's a means for helping people get to cons. The Hacker Hardship is about people falling on hard times. This was actually one of the things we originally heard from that original meeting, which was that we all get a run of bad luck, and occasionally you need a little help from your friends. So this is an institutionalized version of a little help from your friends. What else we got? We got the Hacker Space Fund, which I'm going to talk a little more about in the future. But then there's the Hacker Emergency Response Fund. Hackers for Humanity was originally dreamed up as a NGO, an international NGO that would go into the world's trouble spots and build networks. So exciting, flying in a C-130, whip out routers, build networks. Yeah, you don't need that in Somalia right now. So that kind of went by the wayside. But the idea is that there are still places where that's useful, and we saw a lot of that in Katrina, New Orleans, right after the big hit there. We saw hackers in the area doing things with technology that were deeply impactful to the community and very useful. So that's a fund there to put that together. And then the other one, this last partnership fund, and the idea behind that is Kiva is a microloan program that loans small amounts of money to people in underdeveloped countries. We're talking like 25 bucks goes a long way to starting your own small shop in Uganda. And they have a 100% loan return rate. So that means that if I give them 25 bucks, I will get my 25 bucks back. And that's a pretty good investment there. So what we thought of was, you put money in the fund, we invest the money into these loans through Kiva. It's all done in the hacker name. The money gets paid out to the people. They eventually pay us back. We keep putting money back into Kiva. So it's essentially Hacker Foundation or hacker community foreign aid, that we don't have to deal with a lot of the overhead for it. And then there's also rolling your own fund, which Nick is more familiar with the mechanics of that.
One of the reasons the Hacker Foundation exists is to allow people in the community to do what they want, be able to solicit the funds that they want. If there's something that you think you could get a lot of support behind, some kind of cause or something that you think the community should be doing, the Hacker Foundation can act as the 501c3 umbrella organization. These are just some of the ideas that we've come up with that in talking with people in Germany at other cons, that they've said, yeah, these are good ideas, and we should be supporting these and we should be doing these. All of these funds right now you can donate to online at hackerfoundation.org, or if you'd prefer to send a check or prefer to do something else, a pocket full of cash, however you want to do it.
An armored car.
You can also email us. All of the information how to do that is online at hackerfoundation.org. And you know, we're going to talk about this a little bit more. Our presentation is kind of short to allow for plenty of Q&A and suggestions from the community. If you think that there's an idea for a fund that has a charitable purpose, we'll help you work out what that charitable purpose is and begin to help provide the resources so that you can get more support for the idea from the community.
So, hacker spaces. This is kind of something that's been floating around in my brain for a long time, and I've always been really intrigued by space, by architecture. Space is a really powerful tool. It's a very useful tool, and what's neat about it is that it inspires, it motivates, and it's really good for creating a group identity. I feel more like a hacker when I'm at a HackerCon, at a 2600 meeting or something like that, or at a party of hackers than I do, say, at my IT job, which is kind of funny. And space is, it's so fascinating to me because I grew up in the Northeast, and I always assumed, because I grew up in the era of Loft, that all hacker groups had a bat cave, and they all had like these super secret spaces where they're doing wonderful things. And as I grew up, I found out that that was not necessarily the case. And it's so really interesting to me that we didn't do that in the US, and I had heard that the Germans did this. So Nick went to speak at CCC, and he comes back all tanked up on Kool-Aid, essentially. He's all like, these spaces, they're awesome. They're huge. They're everywhere. They're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And I was like, oh, well, hallelujah, welcome to my world. How do we make this happen? So what we did was we thought about this a little. We talked about these spaces and what we wanted to do. and we thought about space and space and space. And the hackers need a space to learn, develop, and display their skills. We're very social creatures, even though most people don't seem to think that. So that's why you come to cons and you show off. Or you come to cons and learn, and then you come back and show off. So, and socializing a critical mass of hackers is a way to get things happening, make things interesting. So that's why they're fun, and 2600 meetings are fun. And we also learned that we all don't have a nice spectrum analyzer or an enterprise grade switch or router that we can try new tricks on. So resource aggregation is another really great tool for spaces. And finally, I've seen this a couple times. I'm at a 2600 meeting or some sort of hacker meeting. This kid comes in, doesn't say anything for a while, and then suddenly he blurts out something like, I just rooted my school, I upped my and I transferred all of my parents' money into my bank account from the local bank. And then we turn and introduce them to the local law enforcement agent who just happens to be there. Developing a hacker character from a young age is a very useful thing. Meetings once a month are maybe not the best place to do that. So if we could create some sort of dojo where we could take those young hackers and meld their Jedi minds, it'd be very handy. And the hacker space also is something that Foundation thinks is really important because we see it as a basis for more projects, and we're about doing things, and we see this as a basis for more external community involvement by people in this community externally to our own to do things. And we also see this as a basis for more hacks that are not necessarily simply related to security, corporate security or information security. We're talking art hacks. The Germans do a lot of them, funded by the government to do them. So that's a very handy thing. Thank you. So what is the Hackerspace Initiative? It's a campaign to create and maintain hackerspaces in the US. First of all, we're going to advocate it, we're going to water this in your mind, and we're going to tell you about it over and over and over again so that you think about hackerspaces more than you did in the past. We're going to try and get you some money. The Europeans are very lucky in that they're supported by and large by a very overarching state. I don't think the federal government is going to give us any money anytime soon. But maybe we can get some from other people and we can support what other people are doing. We're also going to do some grant seeking to try and lay hands on some money to fund spaces and support spaces. And then the other thing we're going to do as a 501c3 is we can do sponsorship coordination. I've had a really great discussion with No Starch Press and a couple other vendors that are here and some other bigger vendors about saying, hey, if we can get your entire library for each of our spaces in every city that we put a space in or that's sanctioned by us. So you can have access to that $45 TCP IP illustrated guide where you need to read the chapter on DNS for whatever the project is. And finally, most importantly, we're going to try and build up a big knowledge base on building, operating, and doing it right spaces. How to do them right, how to do contracting, how to understand all that. The boring allows the space to operate and not distract from what you're trying to do in the first place. So if you want to work on your giant robot project, you don't have to be thinking about paying rent every day because somebody's already done it or the contract has already been sorted out and it's not gonna, you're not going to get shut down for some reason. So Hackerspace Initiative, we got a website, of course. We got a wiki page, which is our main knowledge base where we're storing everything that we're figuring out and learning about this. A mailing list, we want to get, there's a lot of hackerspaces already out there. Stuff like Hasty Pastry, which is a secret we don't want to talk about because it's so awesome. And there's a space coming up in Chicago, and there's a couple other spaces. And we want to put people that are interested in the idea of these spaces and putting them together, in touch with each other, because we see this as really a network and a larger foundation for more. And finally, we're going to be giving a presentation at Nauticon talking.
The date is wrong.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, you're right.
April 28th or April 27th.
Uh-oh. I'll talk to you about my plane tickets. Shit. But yeah, we'll be giving a 1-hour presentation presenting everything in the knowledge base as a white paper at Nauticon. So now we're going to talk about an entirely different type of hackerspace. You want me to do the thing?
Yeah.
You want me to do the thing?
Run the line.
I want all these motherfucking hackers on this motherfucking thing.
The idea behind this came from McFly, who's a German hacker who's heavily involved with the CCC in Germany. He said, you know, the CCC camp, which takes place, I think, every 4 years, just in an open field where a bunch of hackers get together and build a camp, and that's what they have a con at camp in an open field. It's happening only a few days after DEF CON ends this year. And so he said, well, wouldn't it be great if we could get a whole bunch of people from DEF CON to go to the CCC camp? This, which is actually one of the biggest fundraising projects that we've ever tried to attempt, Hackers on a Plane, what we're going to be doing is taking a bunch of people from DEF CON, putting them on an all-business class flight, a private flight, from Las Vegas and landing directly at the airfield where the camp is taking place in Germany.
You don't have to act any normals.
You know, we have 92 seats available. It's the first that we know of anyway. HackerCon in flight, leaving the Monday after DEF CON from Las Vegas. Because it's an all business class plane and because it will be all our own plane, if you just want to sleep between DEF CON and CCC camp, you can do that and do that
160 degrees of recline. You'll find that on any coach flight.
If you're interested in hearing a preview of some of the talks that will be going on at CCC, there will be a plane dedicated specifically for talks. If you just want to get insanely drunk, all booze, all food, everything that you could possibly consume on, I think it's a 10 or 11 hour flight is provided as a cost of it. For the cost of the flight, you get admission to DEF CON, you get the flight from Las Vegas to Germany, you get admission to CCC camp, the ability to take a reasonable amount of gear that you would not otherwise be able to put on a commercial flight, since the entire plane will be dedicated to us. If you have a complicated camping rig set up, if you want to carry on 3 flight cases, you can do that. No EU carry-on restrictions, no incredibly invasive TSA security procedures.
We will be going through customs, though.
We will be going through customs in
No
Germany.
weapons, no drugs,
so
please.
don't bring your guns or weapons to Germany.
That would be really... We are landing at a military base,
Right.
so they might outgun you.
And if you happen to be coming to DEF CON from Germany, the cost of this includes your flight from Germany or from Europe to Las Vegas. It also includes your return flight. Say you want to spend 6 months in Europe, we can book for, all included in this one price, a return flight 6 months later. If you want to come back right after camp, we can. That's also included in the price. Freshman, did you have a question?
Yes, is a shower required before boarding?
Showers are on the plane. No, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Maybe there'll be a little test, a sniff test.
Hey, I don't know. There's probably a group of hackers out there who would maybe want to build a shower on a plane. There's actually,
so
this is
dirty
sort
at
of
so
an
many
inside
levels.
joke. In the CCC, there's a rule that's a part of, I think, each one of the charters of the different spaces in Germany that a majority of the people in a hackerspace run by the CCC in Germany can vote at any given time to make somebody else in the space go take a shower, because every hackerspace in Germany actually has a shower in it,
With towel.
surprisingly. The cost of this, $5,000, includes all of this. If you're interested, please come talk to us right away so that we can get all of the travel arrangements and everything like that made, depending on when you want to come back, different things like that.
Pimpin' ain't easy. Yes.
Flight returning to Las Vegas or your point of origin?
No, it returns you to wherever
Okay.
in North America you need to.
So there's a little trick there. You got to get yourself to Vegas at some point, but
I
you know,
mean-
if you have $5,000, I think you can swing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for the cost of flight, MaxJet will return you either to Las Vegas or New York, and then depending on whatever is cheapest for us to get you back from there, we'll get you back, and that's included in the price. No.
Yeah, we can do that. So, by this point, you've probably figured out that we need help. We need all the help we can get. Nick and I do almost all of the grunt work. We have some very dedicated and very competent networking staff that help us with a lot of the mundane stuff. But we need advice, helpful criticism, networking. We need to know what other people are doing, how we can help them, how they can help us. We need a lot of key volunteers. I am a really, really shitty webmaster. Nick will attest to this, and anyone that actually looks at the code on our website will this. So if you know a good webmaster out there who's got some time, let me know. I need their help. I need them to take over the website. I need them to manage the wiki. We need project liaison officers. Those are people that represent the foundation and the project. They're the kind of go-to between those two. It's a very handy little role. You get to have your hands in a bunch of cool projects. More as they come on. We need volunteer coordinators because volunteers happen and we need to recruit, manage, and reward them. Need grant coordination, raising managers. If you're really comfortable asking people for money, we need to talk to you because I'm really not. And we need marketing and PR. We need all the marketing help we can get. So now it's Prime Minister's question time. Are we off our rockers? Is this completely crazy? Okay, we got it. One no. We got no. Okay.
And one of the things we've been here talking at cons for 2 or 3 years. The initial 501c3 application process was long, but it fell within my expertise. A lot of the things that I'm doing with the foundation are really sort of outside my comfort zone. I mean, really, it's Jesse and I on the phone 2 hours a night trying to say, well, how do we get this working? It's me, playing week-long games of phone tag with H.D. Moore, trying to get him access that he needs so he can see who is giving him money, things like that. And, we throw things out there. We say, hey, donate money, donate time, donate things like that. And everybody gets excited about it at con, and then we never hear from them again.
Yes. So, how does everyone feel about the money thing? Oh, we love money too. I love your money. I want more of your money. Yes, Jack.
I think what you need is a larger advisory board to get you a little more synergy. You've got 2 people.
We actually.
And you basically used all your knowledge to get where you're at today. You need more malice and forethought so that you can do better planning. Like one of the things that, like you said, you need a grant writer. One of the things they do is get a couple of people to go talk to places like EFF and find out how do they go about getting grants? How do they go about managing it?
Right.
It's kind of like, I keep thinking of that old Richard Dawson show. I can't remember the name of it, but survey says.
Family Feud. That would be.
Yeah, but the thing of it is, how are other people doing it?
Yes. That tricky thing we run into is I do a lot of research about how other people are doing it and then have to work insane hours, which is tricky. That's one of the other things we're trying to do is figure out how we can spread the load and still get work done.
That's why you need the advisory board so that you can basically say, okay, guys, what do you think we should be focusing on now? Let them help you with the prioritization. Additionally, you co-charge them to come up with a better way of managing your time.
Sounds
Well,
good.
and we have a board of 9 people right now. We're currently in the midst of trying to restructure that board. It's a difficult thing to get 9 people who are in 5 different time zones all sitting together with a productive agenda and actually getting something done through IRC or through a teleconference. I mean, there are people out there. It's a problem of managing schedules, coordinating things. I mean, we have 3 different spaces where Hacker Foundation assets are stored, and I'm tracking it. And a lot of these meetings are, well, a lot of the meetings that we have at the board level and advisory level are basically people asking the one person who has that particular expertise, people saying, okay, well, I'm going to put this on my to-do list and take care of it, and then everybody goes back to their 60-hour work weeks and have family obligations and things like that, and it becomes very difficult to do. I mean, that's one of the reasons that the Hackerspace Initiative is here, and what we're hoping for is that by actually having a physical space where people are getting together and people are talking about everything stored in one place, and more ideas and more things will happen. The prototype hackerspace we're looking to launch with Freshman's help and probably a lot of help from Shmoo right here in Washington, D.C. I mean, we have the organizational expertise, we have the best practices, we have a lot of different things, experience in commercial real estate. A lot of people who are localized 2600 groups, DC groups, things like that will come up to me at cons and say, oh, well, we've wanted to have a hackerspace for a really long time and have these people involved and we figure we can afford this much, but we don't know how to proceed from here. And again, without some kind of umbrella organization to sign a lease, one person out of that group of 10 or 12 doesn't want to take sole responsibility for renting a commercial space at $1,200 a month for a whole year. They don't, I mean, granted, we have friends and we trust our friends, but do you really trust your friends to come up with $50 a month for the next year to make sure that this space is supported? And, I mean, I've been involved with different hacker spaces in San Francisco. in Detroit. I mean, my own project space is sort of a de facto hackerspace, even though it supports one of my other side businesses. And I mean, one of the reasons behind this is that we feel that hackerspaces should be organizations of groups and people following some kind of formalized procedure, incorporating in their own state, pulling a DBA from their particular county, depending on the laws in their particular jurisdiction, actually getting as a group, coming up with formal legal agreements for how the place is going to be supported, and having a legal structure through the Hacker Foundation to be able to do the things like sign the lease, to make the agreements, to determine what sorts of priorities and what sort of rules every hackerspace should have.
Sounds like a couple books you just described.
Right.
I know an author right here that really helped you. But part of the thing is, you know, publish and make a little bit of profit out of that to show people how to, you know.
And, but it's a lot more than that. We wanted to sort of have this there for people, and that's the thing. If you have 100 different people that you talk to at a con that are really interested and that really want to do something, in my experience, 10 of those people will email you back. You'll get a conversation going with about 5 of them. And then maybe at the end of the day, out of those 100 people, you'll have one person who's actually got something going off the ground. You know, many different hacker projects have approached doing a particular fund. And, you know, I've said conversations, well, why is whatever you want this fund to do serving a charitable purpose? And then they say, well, you know, the conversation sort of ends right there. Then after you get involved in a conversation with someone, try to decide, you know, how is what they're doing following in line with 501c3 purposes set out in the Internal Revenue Code. And that the only project so far that we've been able to sort of get off the ground is the Metasploit Fund. Now its charitable purposes are defined. It's starting to collect money. And now, you know, the hard part of telling the community that the fund exists and saying, well, please donate if you believe in Metasploit, and following the whole administrative of getting people their tax receipts out, of figuring out, you know, what sorts of spending priorities does the fund have, and dispersing the money is another thing. So out of the 100 of projects that I've talked to, only one right now is operating right now. And we're still sort of struggling to get more and more people to actually donate. And given the tremendous amount of press that Metasploit generates and the tremendous amount of productive things that come out of that project, it's surprising that only a few $100s have been raised so far. You know, everybody who's gone to Metasploit.org has seen the donate link on there. And I don't know how many thousands or tens of thousands of people will go to the page, consider donating, and out of those people, how many actually have clicked the button and put in, you know, $1, 20, or 50? I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound this bitter. I'm just saying, you know, please help, support. Let us know how to do things better.
Yes,
Sort of a sideways question. With the, I'm sorry, I had a phrase a second ago. You just confused me with the whole "don't be mad at me" thing. Okay, beautiful. So you're looking to have hacker spaces. Are you looking to affiliate with them, or would it be like Shmoo's DC hackerspace affiliated with? Or it's Hacker Foundation's space in DC that you're coordinating it?
No, the Hackerspace initiative is designed to be a much more public space than most groups are willing to have. A place where anybody, any hacker who's not affiliated with group or affiliated with group, to come and be able to share and collaborate. You know, Shmoo Group has their Shmoo Group hack space, but that's confined to Shmoo Group. The way that their space is set up is designed for the people who are members of Shmoo. What the Hacker Foundation, what the Hacker Spaces Initiative is trying to do is create a space that's open for anybody to come in there. You know, some random person who's walking off the street can't, you know, sort of knock on the door of the Shmoo Group and say, oh, hey, you know, can I leave my computers here and plug into your network and work with things that you're working on? Because that's not what the Shmoo Group space was designed to do.
Are you speaking to branding? Yeah.
More so legality of, not so much legality, but the financial obligation of, you said, let's say you have 50, you're going to trust them for $50 a month, and then you're going to have this space, the Hacker Foundation will sign a lease with they have liability, this and that and the other.
Well, I mean, Hacker Foundation isn't going to just talk to 12 people and sign a lease. There's a long intermediary process.
But branding-wise, this would be the Hacker Foundation DC space.
No. Branding-wise, it'll be a space run by the initial core of people, designed to be a more public space. It's not designed to be affiliated with whatever group that they're in. It's designed to be a space modeled after the spaces in Germany that are welcoming, that are open, that are a place for meeting spaces. You know, a lot of different libraries will leave meeting rooms open, things like that. This is an extension of that concept, a place for people who are in the community who don't want to be affiliated with a group or don't want to do things, to be able to go to like the Washington DC space. And whoever comes to us in a community and says, look, we have a core group of people who are willing to support a space and who are willing for it to be public and not affiliated with the group and are willing to leave it open. You know, a lot of people don't want to invest in a space that people can just walk up off the street and get involved with. What we're here to, what we're here to do is encourage those people who want to have that public space that's not just their group's space or those 12 people's space, to give them the institutional support for them to be able to go out there, organize officially, determine what they want to do with that space, and leave it more open to the public as a hack space.
In terms of affiliation, it's not going to be Hackerspace DC, Hacker Foundation Space DC. It's going to be the DC hackers have a space. We help with what we can help with, and you brand it as you choose to brand it.
And what they do in Germany
is we're not like Hacker Foundation Space DC.
Right,
Yeah, we don't do that.
As far as
we help
branding,
with what we can.
As far as branding goes, the space will be named whatever the people who found it name it, and the name will be associated with the space itself. The space will develop its own particular identity and its own particular culture, but it's not like people are quote-unquote members of a space and a group is bound up in the space. It's like a traditional space like this is C-Base in Germany. C-Base is a space. The people who are involved in C-Base have designed its own, a very unique culture around it, and have put a lot of different things into it, but it's the space that's there, running the space, and it's an open area where people can come invest. It's a public space, actually. It's more like a bar that just happens. It's a bar on the first level that happens to have a whole bunch of hack labs that the bar supports beneath it. And while I'm not saying that we should all open up bars to support hacker projects,
Yeah, we should.
the idea is accessible.
That would work really well, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it in a residence? Ah, that's actually the first rule we learned.
A regular space, but the rents are outrageous, and we live in New York in the Bronx, in a really bad neighborhood.
Right.
And we don't feel it's appropriate for anybody to just come in. We interrogate people at the door, like, listen, who sent you? What are you about? And can you do this? No, then you need to leave.
No.
But,
No. I hear exactly what you're saying, because there is this fine line between anybody off the street and hackers in the community, and that's something that that we're definitely thinking about in the white papers. How we're going to deal with this, how we're going to balance this out, because in Germany they're strangely more civil there. And they seem to make a deal with this problem.
In that particular example, it's not something where you keep the door open 24/7 to anybody who wants to walk in off the street. But what you do is what they have is meetings every so often. That the lock pickers will have their meeting on Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. That the people who are involved in C code, trying to teach people and to try to become better C coders, have their meeting on Wednesday night, and so on and so forth, so that you have certain times where the public is invited in to sort of have a quote-unquote hack party or a meeting, things like that. And as more people attend more of those meetings, as those particular groups that are affiliated with the space begin to recognize, oh, well, this person is trustworthy and interested, then that person's allowed this corner of the space, and that they're given access to the space during, a particular number of hours.
Yes.
I agree with my fellow New Yorker. But have you thought about working with, or at least beginning your work with an organization that already owns some kind of public space, and then starting the meetings, getting the schedule going, and then when people start...
Who do you have in mind?
Well, I work at a university, of conference rooms. And
Well, so that's the thing. We actually had a great discussion with Lost about this. Who's Lost look for? Tucson.
UAT?
UAT. And they have created a de facto hackerspace on campus because he's there, and there's a public space policy there, and so if
You might want to explain what UAT is quickly.
I don't know what UAT is.
University of Advancing Technology in Phoenix. It's a accredited university that,
So-
that basically resembles any university or college institution that you'd see out there in Phoenix.
So one of the spaces that we've been talking to for a while now is the Boys and Girls Club of Chicago. They have a basement. 2600 meets there. That could be a hacker space. We can figure out how to. That is a hacker space, actually. So how can we figure out how to make that raise it up a little bit more? Right. It's it's a step out of the mall. It's I hear what you're saying. It's a step out of the mall and into more civilized space.
And at the same time, the knowledge base that we have right now behind hackerspaces is more geared towards places where rents are not what they are in New York, are not what they are in San Francisco. That it's much more feasible in places to find cheap warehouse space where you can get a network connection in there and not pay,
Out the ass.
$100 a square foot for. Right, and that's why we think DC would be a very good place to begin with that, because it is a major metropolitan area that has a strong population density and a large number of people that are interested and willing to support it. It's not like Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I live, where we've got, even though we have the person who won the DEF CON Capture the Flag contest last year, our DC 616 meetings are 3 or 4 people at most, and that's not enough in and of itself to support a hackerspace. And
say again. Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
And
I've been to Buffalo. Is anybody here from Buffalo? Northern New York. But it's not that nice.
And the idea here right now, the Hacker Foundation. People. I'm moving to DC in August. Shmoo Group is here, and there's a strong core of people that we know of right now that's ready to build the first hackerspace prototype right here in Washington, D.C. But the point that I really want to get across is that if you think you have a critical mass to build a space like this wherever you live, come talk to us, and we will help you. That's the exercise. Talk to us. Email us. If we don't email you within a week, try emailing us again.
Call us.
Both of our cell phone numbers are on the website. Our fax number, email, all of our different office spaces. We have any myriad of number of different ways to contact us. What the Hacker Foundation was designed to do was designed to take all of these great ideas that people come up with at cons and build an infrastructure to make them possible. There are thousands and thousands of really great ideas and thousands of people in the community who are willing to put a little bit of effort into making them happen, but there are very few people and almost no infrastructure to make those kinds of things happen in this country. And that's why we went to all of the effort that we did to build the Hacker Foundation into what it is today.
Hey, Jack. Actually, let me ask that nice man back there behind you. Yes, sir. That's you with the no hair.
Last freshman and I collectively out of the question. Why do you hate freedom?
Why do I hate freedom?
He lives in Vermont.
Yeah.
We're seeing how many people actually pick up on the joke.
I don't even know where the joke came from, but do I hate CCNAs too? We'll talk again. I don't know.
Does anybody have a serious question?
Jack does.
Oh.
You should be talking to non-hacker conferences, because one of the business cases you can be doing is talking to businesses and saying, some of these people that might be coming to these hacker spaces are going to be your future employees. This would be a good way to develop some of the skill sets to come into your organization. You've also got a lot of military sites around the country. They have a lot of open space. She had talked about the university, great place.
Yeah. Actually, I'm currently studying for my certification. Don't say anything, Major. And it's so funny because I was like, this really, it's Cisco land, it's Cisco crazy, but I was like, man, if more hackers had CCNAs and there were more hackers working inside Cisco, maybe we could do a little reform from the inside. And a certification from Cisco always adds some zeros to your paycheck. So that's one of the things that I thought about is, hey, can we get a router and switch kit so you can learn how to get your degree?
Yeah. Well, one thing I would say is when you're trying to raise your money is be wary of using hacker a lot in your presentations with people. 'Cause no matter
I get
what-
that every single time I fly on a
Yeah.
plane and tell people that I'm
Yeah,
with the
but-
Hacker Foundation.
Well, suits don't like to hear it. It's plain and simple. You know, yeah, we can mention it here. We're all open about it, but you know, the guys who write the paychecks don't want to hear hacker. It has a negative connotation, and it has for a lot of years. No matter how we try to change the connotation, it still has a negative connotation to the people who don't understand it.
Maybe
Don't you think that this is actually, I mean, the part of the steps to actually change that? I would say.
Oh, I
that this
agree.
is-
I agree. But initially going to these people and saying, well, yeah, we want to set up a hacker fund. You know, the newspapers, every time someone gets busted doing something wrong, it's, ooh, a computer hacker did this.
So I have
That person gives us a black mark no matter what.
I have a crazy idea, and this is one of the projects, and I really wish I had time to do this. Every time somebody misuses the word hacker in a paper, they get a letter and a phone call. Every time, until they reform, over and over and over again. One of the things that we do not have, and the Germans do have, is hey, you want to do it? Okay. Well, the Germans have very good at protecting their image. The CCC is very good at that, and so the German media does not refer to things. Evil hackers do this. It's always evil malicious user or evil cracker or Russian thief or something. Yeah, it's never.
Jesse, we're running short on time. Was there anybody that had a question in the back?
In the red
that
shirt,
we
maybe?
didn't-
You? No hair? You look like you had a question.
Oh,
You don't
well,
have
actually, we've been waiting on one from the center. You had a question?
About creating, I can ask you after about creating a fund. I was interested in creating a college scholarship, even if it's minimal.
Hey, sounds good.
This may be a little bit stretching it, but let's say under the concept of roll your own fund. A hacker's been spending a lot of his own money investing time, investing equipment, everything else. Hacker Foundation now exists. Can he turn around, donate his code, donate his equipment to the foundation, which is then given back to him? Or is that kind of iffy?
That's called money laundering.
Can we do that?
No.
No. Are there any agents from the IRS in the room? No.
But at the same time, we have these conversations with Metasploit, and I mean Metasploit's code and licensing and framework is all protected by an organization that's separate from the fund. All the fund is there to do is to collect money for charitable purposes from people who are going to be asked for charitable write-offs on their taxes for that. And if somebody out there is working on a project that has a stated research aim, that has a stated aim to advance that technology, and has no stated profit motive that's bound up in the purposes of that fund, then that fund's possible. If somebody has been, putting a lot of time and energy and would like that tax write-off for that, if it serves a charitable purpose and it falls within the letter of the law of the Internal Revenue Code, and this speaks to the hacker thing. The way that I've always said that we have to do things is completely by the book, on the record, that where other organizations might have the liberty to stretch things a little bit, because we're the Hacker Foundation, we're a target. And
We like to call it duck a duck.
and they're going to, and that we have to play it as safe as possible, which is why maybe a money laundering scheme like you're describing might work in a United Way. I don't even want to touch it.
Any final questions? Once, twice? See us after the con? Oh. Useful contact information and many other useful things are in these pamphlets. If you want one, let me know. I got business cards too.
Hackerfoundation.org is the website. Freshman, one quick last question.
Sure.
Are you writing just the letters to the people who are using the negative connotation in the media, or are you actually doing this in the positive?
Would you like to head up this project, sir?
Yeah, actually, there was an article about 3 or 4 days ago that was from somebody at ABC News who was actually quoting someone from a university, someone that had done a study at a university about how really hackers are not the problem, it's actually insider threat. So,
Yes. Sounds good. Let's do it.
okay.
Great. Thank you very much.
PR program.
Yeah. You look scrappy. Yes.
Oh, I call it something else.
So it was really, really tempting to say, you know, when you were saying, you know, form from the inside, you really want to. Or do you mean like, you know, my little gang is yeah, and they're number 3.
I don't have any impression whatsoever. We gotta talk about it.